So the new 4.6 meta has quite a few surprising twists that I did not see coming, and in this video I'm going to talk about the top performing characters, as well as cover some of the less known teams in the latest 4.6 Abyss rotation based on the community data. And of course, since Arlecchino has been released not that long ago, I am also going to cover her influence on the player base. But first, this video is sponsored by World of Warships, the legendary free-to-play naval action MMO available on PC and consoles. Featuring over 600 warships, you can play with various classes like battleships with big guns, aircraft carriers for the sky, cruisers for support, and destroyers for stealth. And right now, World of Warships collab with Azure Lane has returned for its 6th wave, and this time, a ton of new content has been added. This collaboration introduces brand new premium ships, commanders, and skins to enhance your naval battles. For example, you can unlock fan-favorite commanders like Queen Elizabeth and Hornet, who are fully voiced, and take control of some of these new beautiful Azure Lane-themed ships that fit in really well with the game's stunningly realistic graphics. And if you're new to this game, now's the best time to start playing with invite code 6wave Azure Lane, which will unlock a ton of awesome rewards for you, including a 7-day premium access, Azure Lane crate, commanders Shimakaze and Fuso, a tier 6 destroyer warship, 1.5 million credits, and 600 doubloons. So make sure to download World of Warships by using my link in the description and help support my channel. So, now that the dust has settled, where does Arlecchino stand in terms of usage rates when it comes to the latest 4.6 Abyss? Well, unsurprisingly, she's been dominating the top 10 teams in quite a few spots. I mean, technically her third team is an 11th spot, but still. Now, the most popular variation seems to be made up of Zhongli, Yalan, and Benny. So this team is borderline premium, with both Zhongli and Yalan acting as the two 5-star supports. Benny Boy, of course, is there to help with boosting Arlecchino's attack, so that's fine. But what really took me by surprise was the usage of the actual team. You see these numbers here, 48 and 52? Well, this is the ratio of which side of the Abyss is preferred for this team. So what this basically means is that everyone is using this team on both sides. But yeah, this makes sense, since this particular variation does really well against both sides. So it's really up to the player which chambers they want to clear with this team, since there's enemies like Abyss Lector on second side, whose shield is super easy to break with constant pyro attacks coming from Arlecchino, and then the whole first side is just a pretty normal rotation of enemies to go up against. But let's be honest here, this Abyss is absolutely favored for pyro damage dealers. However, when it comes to cryo and animal meta, well, things are a bit rough these days. You see, the problem for these elements lies in different chambers. For example, for mono animal teams like Xiao, Hazo, and Wanderer, the Abyss Lectors on second chamber, second side of floor 12 will severely slow down the clear time, to the point that I'm not sure if it's possible to even obtain 3 stars, unless you go with something like Bennett as support and spam his skill inside his circle, since this will help get rid of their electro shields faster. But if we take a look at the first side of chamber 2, Coppelia's boss also has 70% animal resistance, so good luck doing the damage to this annoying enemy. In fact, this is also a problem for cryo teams as well, since this boss also has 70% cryo resistance. Now, you might think, well, at least Abyss Lector shields can be destroyed fast with a crowd team, and that's true. But then Iniquitous Baptist shows up on the last chamber, and I believe he will always have cryo shield up as one of the 3 possible elements you need to break, so both Hydro and Cryo will not be able to break it, and then you might have to run something like a Pyro unit in a cryo team to take care of things, which starts to feel a little janky. But yeah, that's just a quick overview of the Animo and Crowd teams compared to something like Arlecchino dominating both sides of this current Abyss, just so you have context. But going back to Father's team comps, we can see that in the 6th spot, Kazuha, Zhongli, and Bennett are utilized for the first side of floor 12, which makes sense since without Hydro, it's harder to clear the second side. And on top of that, this team is called Comfy for the fact that you can group enemies, have shielding, and apply a lot of resistance shred, thanks to Kazuha's VV Shred artifact set and Zhongli's shield. And then finally, in the 11th spot, there's Arlecchino's VV Vape team, that's mostly utilized on the second side of Abyss. Now, personally, I sometimes find this comp a bit of a nuisance to play if I want to set up double swirl with Kazuha, but if you don't care about swirling Hydro for better damage that either Yalan or Xingqiu could obtain, then yeah, it's another strong team that has risen pretty high in the ratings. But personally, I think a lot of this data when it comes to Arlecchino is going to be warped, at least during the initial patch, since everyone is excited to use this fiery fighter, and it will probably take a good month for things to settle down and actually become realistic data when it comes to evaluating Arlecchino's popularity. But still, just look at this usage data for characters. 70% usage rate for Arlecchino, and she's sitting at the top with all the most popular characters already. Obviously, it's still funny to see Neuvillette so high in the usage here as well, but for 2 damage dealers to show up in S+ ranking is pretty bizarre to say the least. Keep in mind, this rating here is not the actual character's power level, but just the evaluation of their usage. But I think now is also a good time to talk about the big elephant in the room, and that is, what's the situation for Hu Tao players now that Arlecchino is out? Well, the situation is pretty weird. You see, while I cannot show you the actual numbers from the app I am using, since it's undergoing maintenance right now, I did manage to write down the latest individual usage rates for both Arlecchino and Hu Tao. Basically, about 50% of people who submitted their data for the Abyss clears own Hu Tao, while 43% or so own Arlecchino, so a ton of players pulled for Daddy. However, here's the big twist. Around 70% of players used Arlecchino in this Abyss who own her, while only roughly 30% of players decided to use Hu Tao. The difference here is pretty huge, and again, I am sure this mostly has to do with the fact that people are just excited to use Arlecchino and aren't bothering to play with Hu Tao, at least during this cycle, since they both offer very similar benefits, and that mostly has to do with the fact that they utilize Hydro to vape their damage. Now the thing is, Hu Tao can mostly be used in vape teams. Sure, there's the occasional melt team, but they aren't super relevant. While with Arlecchino, you can play her in vape, monopyro, and overload teams, so a lot more avenues to explore with her gameplay rather than focusing on just one. And we even saw that the 6th most popular team was basically just a monopyro team, so this speaks volumes about Arlecchino's flexibility. Now, I know what you're thinking. This means Hu Tao has been power crept, right? Well, it's not pragmatic to compare their damage potential, but Arlecchino's flexibility is quite apparent here. And I mean, flexibility is super important in this game. Not only will it determine character's usage rate, but it also just feels better that you can have more options with that character. But do I think this is the end of Hu Tao's career? Honestly, I don't believe this is the end for her. We really need to take into consideration that Arlecchino is just super popular right now, and Hu Tao still can put out insane amount of damage. And this is quite amazing considering she's one of the OG characters from the early days of Genshin. In fact, here's another interesting thing to consider. Childe has a slightly lower usage rate than Hu Tao in this update, but his international team is sitting in the 2nd spot of all the top teams. In fact, it's dominating both sides of the Abyss, and he is another super old character. So I think it's pretty great that even as a Hydro unit, Childe didn't retire once Neuvillette showed up, even if this Hydro Dragon dude is still chilling in the 1st spot of team rankings for quite a few updates now. And by the way, we can also see that Hu Tao's most popular team is ranked 5th, so I think it's pretty safe to say that she will continue to go strong even after Arlecchino's debut. Now, one last thing I want to quickly address would be the situation of the rest of the elements in the 4.6 update. In my previous 4.5 video, I showcased the popularity of the 2 new Geo units, Chiori and Navia. Well, in the current version, both their usage rates have nosedived quite heavily. Basically, the usages have been cut in half. We can see that Navia's first team shows up ranked as 20th, while Chiori's team is a bit lower down, sitting at 23rd place, and she's utilized in Mono Geo Ito's team. And of course, since the first side of floor 12 is better for Geo to go up against, both these teams are utilized there. But on the bright side, Dendro seems to be doing quite well. The second side seems to be perfectly suited for Dendro damage dealers. And we can see that Alhaitham's comp made up of Nahida, Xingqiu, and Cookie, the classic, is comfortably sitting in 3rd place. So basically a lot of Dendro variations will do well here. And then of course, some other good old teams that have been performing well would be National or Rational with Raiden. Both sides can be cleared pretty comfortably with this comp, so good news for anyone who are still playing this team. But yeah, overall, I would say that this current Abyss cycle and meta is pretty stale. Not a lot of changes compared to the last update. The teams that dominated still dominate, maybe aside from Cryo and Animo teams who have been getting the short end of the stick for quite some time now, Cryo especially. Anyway, hope you found this video useful, and as always, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.